Coral reefs cover just 1% of the ocean floor, and yet they're home to a quarter of all marine life.
This is totally overwhelming. A complete sensory overload. It's extraordinary.
Reefs feed us and keep us safe, shielding coastlines from storm surges and rising sea levels.
But the corals that live in warm, clear waters face a multitude of challenges that threaten their very existence.
Half of all reefs are already dead or damaged, and without action, we could lose most of what's left in the next 20 to 30 years.
Scientists all over the world are racing to try and find creative solutions. Just about anything they can do to give corals a helping hand.
In this, the third series of Our Changing Planet, where we look at precious ecosystems and the people trying to save them.
We're focusing on the habitat that's facing the most urgent threat, our coral reefs. I'm taking a look at high-tech, creative and imaginative solutions to the coral crisis that are being developed on dry land here in the UK and also in the US. On their own, none of these projects can save our reefs, but the hope is that together they'll deliver a crucial lifeline and a much-needed conservation success story.
I'm back in the Maldives, where a reef, by helping it to reproduce more effectively.
It's going to be exhilarating, seat of our pants kind of science.
Nice work!
It's a groundbreaking, astonishing idea to combine a fertility treatment for corals with, incredibly, a soundtrack of fish vocalizations to bring life back to this reef. It's a world first, so no one knows if we can pull it off.
If it works, it's going to be a global game changer.
The Maldives is the flattest country on Earth, much of it just 90 centimeters above the waves. These reefs act as a living shield, protecting 500,000 people that live here from the sea. They're also home to a dazzling number of animals.
There may be as many as 1 million different species that rely on coral reefs to survive. They have a baffling array of different forms. Tables, vases, branching staghorns, great massifs like this, some of which could be 2,000 years old. Despite that, they are now in serious trouble. We've lost approximately 50% of corals in my lifetime.
Corals are living creatures, sensitive to rising temperatures. When the sea is too warm for long periods, the corals get stressed and eject the microscopic algae living within them. These normally act like solar panels, providing most of the coral's energy. Without them, the corals turn white and starve. It's known as bleaching.
This reef was hit really hard in the 2016 bleaching event. 73% of corals died.
But there were survivors, which must have some natural resilience to increased temperature that they're likely to pass on to their offspring. That could be the key to long-term recovery here, but there are so few of them that they might struggle to do it naturally.
Okay, we need to bring some back.
So, to save this reef, scientists are converging on the Maldives to help these survivors. Corals start life as tiny floating larvae that settle on solid surfaces, replicate themselves, and build hard external skeletons. The structure we see is a colony of thousands of genetically identical animals all living together.
But one of the drawbacks is, once you've settled, you can't move. So how do you go about breeding? Well, that is one of the most exciting spectacles in nature.
On just a few nights a year, triggered by a full moon, corals release millions of eggs and sperm into the water in a process called spawning, where they fertilize and become larval corals looking for a place to settle. It's this miraculous spawning process that has become the life's work of one of the world's leading coral scientists.
The real challenge we face is we need to produce a lot more larvae than are currently being naturally produced.
Professor Peter Harrison is a coral expert who has spent 40 years studying Australia's Great Barrier Reef. He pioneered a revolutionary technique known as coral IVF. Peter collects spawn from the wild, artificially fertilizes it, grows the larvae in specially designed protective pools, and then, when they're ready, he releases them back onto the reef.
We target the release of those larvae onto degraded parts of the reef to kickstart the recovery. Watch the roof, down, down, down.
The first stage in the process is to collect as much spawn as possible. Corals here only spawn a few times a year, so we can't afford to miss it. This multinational team are straight in the water, carefully checking each surviving coral for colourful eggs, a sign that spawning is close. Once replaced, time is tight, so we work long into the night. Below the waves, it's an unearthly scene. Some corals contain a fluorescent protein that glows in our UV torchlight.
I feel like I've been transported into a scene from a 1970s Star Trek movie. Everything looks so surreal, transformed into a whole different world of colour I've never seen before. Utterly dazzling.
Beautiful as it is, we're not here to take in the view. There's work to be done.
This is kind of the magic part of what's been called coral IVF. The team have identified during the daytime colonies of corals that are ready to spawn, and they're tagged. Once they're ready, they'll release their sexual cells, and they're pretty much cast adrift and at the mercy of the elements and predators.
The damage to this reef means there are too few reproductive adult corals spread across a very large area. So when they spawn, there's little chance of the eggs meeting sperm and fertilizing.
But we have a way of increasing our odds using this cone, a gamete trap, which almost functions like a coral condom. The bundles of egg and sperm will be released up into the pot on the top. And that is going to be the raw material that helps us do the experiments that could be a massive part of the potential future of these reefs.
In the wild, out of 1 million larvae, maybe one will make it to adulthood. On the Great Barrier Reef, Peter's coral IVF has made larval survival up to 100 times more likely. And one advantage of the coral we're working on here is that any offspring that do survive could grow an impressive 10 centimeters a year and be sexually mature in just 3. Now the traps are in place, we could be waiting for days before the coral spawns.
You never know what they're going to do. These branching corals that we're expecting to see spawn here They are quite variable in their timings, and in some cases they wait until 7 or 8 nights after the full moon. They're amongst the simplest animals on our planet, but they're very complex and they keep us guessing.
Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of eggs and sperm are rising upwards. The cells are full of fat, so they float, and this is key. If the cells drifted at different levels in the sea, they might not bump into each other and fertilize. Because they all rise to the surface, mixing is much more likely.
Already, the gamete traps are working their magic. Inside, you can see the precious sexual cells gathering at the top, the potential future of this reef.
There are so few of each type of adult corals here that it's possible that none of the spawn would fertilize naturally. There's so much riding on the success of Peter's IVF attempt. Every stage completed feels like an obstacle overcome.
Well done, congratulations! What an amazing job!
Spawn is being collected all across the reef tonight.
Oh, beautiful. Eggs and sperm from the same colony don't normally self-fertilise. What we need to do is mix all the eggs and sperm from as many colonies as possible to get as much...
On the damaged reef, less than 5% of the spawn will be fertilised. But in the containers, the fertilisation rate exceeds 95%.
Cheers all around. Well done, team.
It's been a long but successful night. As the sun rises, the now fertilised spawn is very cautiously transferred into protected pools, where it will spend a few critical days developing. But it's not all good news. There's not as much spawn as we'd hoped for, only enough to fill one of the nursery pools. A stark reminder of how hard these reefs have been hit. Even the spawn that we have managed to collect is in danger. A storm is approaching the island. The spawn is floating on the sea surface, and a downpour of fresh water can kill it before life has even had a chance. If that happens, the rescue project will be abandoned, and we'll all be going home early. It's going to be a sleepless night.
When you're doing coral conservation work on the open sea, you've little control over the elements. And for something as precious and specialised as coral spawning, it would be really useful to be able to manage at least some of the conditions to maximise the chances of success. And that's exactly what scientists are doing here in South London. Inside this unassuming warehouse is a groundbreaking research facility, exploring novel ways to culture corals on land that could then be planted out in the ocean. The scientists here were the first in the world to work out how to trigger coral spawning in captivity by mimicking some of the natural conditions they need.
We have been trying to get corals to breed, to grow quicker, survive better, and really impart some of that knowledge on the rest of the world, really.
In the wild, mass spawning is a highly coordinated event, with the corals relying on environmental signals like moonlight and temperature. When all the cues are just right, the ocean is filled with masses of released eggs and sperm. How on earth do you begin to do that in a laboratory situation?
All of these types of things can be done in aquariums. We managed to get corals to spawn in about 8 months after putting all this in place. So we knew 100% we were onto something.
Jamie and the team have developed a ready-to-use coral spawning system that can be shipped around the world and can be controlled from a mobile phone. Oh, it looks beautiful in here.
So this is a spawning system.
Okay.
The reason why we're standing in something that looks like a photography blackout studio, which means we can walk in and out of here and block any external light. Then we can slide these across and we can completely enclose the corals because we don't want to be coming in and out of here and putting light all over them and ruining that cue that they need to release their eggs and sperm.
Okay. And when it comes to moonlight, how did you find out how you could replicate that moonlight here, how strong it had to be?
We know that full moon is about 0.1 lux, okay? It's a really small amount of light.
1 lux is the amount of light you can detect from a single candle a metre away. So 0.1 lux is actually very faint.
I have a light meter and I went round waving it around in my garden at full moon.
You didn't.
I did. And then trying to get the amount of light from an LED to match that intensity of light, but also the colour of the moon as well.
Once Jamie had control of the timing and quality of the light, he could manipulate the corals into spawning more often, essentially speeding up coral reproduction. And now the lab is growing a whole raft of healthy young corals at different stages of development in a series of nursery tanks. What are your ambitions for this system going forward?
You imagine you go to a farm now, vast greenhouses producing millions of plants to go into people's gardens. You know, this has the same potential to do that, but to go onto reefs. We want to see this on colossal scale, producing millions of corals a year. It won't be able to rebuild the reefs the way they were 50 years ago. It will buy time until we can sort out the bigger issues that are facing our planet.
And it's working. 70 spawning systems have already been shipped to coral restoration projects all around the world, with new, healthy corals being planted out onto reefs in the wild.
After a stormy night in the Maldives, it's a peaceful but tense morning.
Our precious cargo is contained within those floating pontoons out there. At this stage, they're incredibly susceptible to any changes in the environment, and last night we had torrential rain.
Peter designed these nursery pools. They allow the fertilized spawn to develop into larvae in natural conditions, but the fine mesh prevents them being swept away.
Yeah! Oh, that's more like it!
That's where they all are.
Basically, my stirring wasn't good enough.
Yeah, sorry, you didn't stir the pot enough.
You gave me one job!
One job. Oh, no. There's literally many hundreds there, probably a few thousand.
I was seriously worried that we might just have had too much rain.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing. Every stage of this process, like life for a coral naturally, is full of risk.
Because they're so tiny, it's hard to think of the larvae as creatures. But these are baby animals. Thankfully, the majority of the larvae have survived, which means we're still on track.
Life for a developing coral is filled with jeopardy. If it's not warming seas or intense storms, it's explosions of algal blooms. Not the vital microscopic algae that live inside the coral's tissues, but larger species of algae that can smother and kill the coral. I'm back at the coral spawning lab in London, where Jamie and the team have developed an ingenious system for breeding and growing thousands of corals in captivity. But this conservation breakthrough is under threat from algae. On a healthy reef, algae are normally kept in check by herbivores like turtles and crabs. But here in the lab, with no grazing animals, the algae can quickly grow out of control, swamping the growing coral and killing as much as 95% of it. Now Professor Michael Sweet has developed an ingenious solution that's entirely natural.
Don't get spiked.
I would, well, don't spike me.
This is an adult urchin. It's called a tuxedo urchin, largely because of the sort of shiny blue-black coloration in between those spines.
There are around 950 species of sea urchins in our oceans. Related to starfish, they move across the seafloor on tubular feet that they also use to attach themselves to rocks. So, why harness the power of sea urchins when it came to your problem with the algae?
So urchins are common in the garden. They're found all over the place, really, and they're massive herbivores. So they're really interesting, and as all are herbivores, they have a very big stomach for the size of the animal, so they can actually eat quite a lot.
And what they like to eat is algae. In the wild, urchins make light work of any algae they come across. But that voracious appetite can sometimes be a problem if another species gets in their way.
If we put these guys in the tanks, they'll bulldoze over our baby corals. They're not targeting the corals, they're doing it inadvertently.
As they're feeding.
Exactly, yeah.
The answer was to think small, matching the size of the urchins to the coral, with the two species growing in size together. And it all comes down to perfect timing.
We know when the corals are going to be spawning, and then we need to target that same spawn date for our urchins.
But that's another huge challenge. How do you time it?
With urchins, it's actually relatively simple, and we can hopefully show you how that works now. We're going to give them a little spa treatment, a nicer, warmer bath.
A spa treatment.
Exactly.
Very scientific, Mark.
Yeah.
As long as I don't have to give them a massage. Moving the urchins to warmer water triggers the release of their eggs and sperm, just like corals in response to environmental cues like moonlight.
This guy looks quite happy.
In the sense that he's ready?
He's waving his arms around.
How do you define a happy urchin ready to spawn? I mean, for goodness sake. A male spawns first, releasing its sperm in plumes from openings called gonopores. There's a beautiful slow-moving cloud emanating from the top. And then a female releases a cloud of eggs, wafting them through the water.
Got the eggs coming in, the female now.
Eggs. Yeah. Oh, this is amazing. This is just so amazing. It's just a beautiful thing that's happening in a tiny little tank in an industrial estate in London. Once the corals and urchins have developed for several weeks, it's time to introduce them to each other.
So these little babies are about 2 months old. This is the holy grail. This is exactly what we want. Actually, on these plugs are baby corals. So little corals which have just settled, and now the urchins are doing their job, cleaning up those little bits of algae and making sure our corals can survive.
The babies will grow together, and by 8 months old, the corals will be robust enough to survive the bigger urchins. By adding baby urchins to their coral nurseries, Mike and the team have increased the number of corals surviving by more than 40%. It's a smart solution, inspired by what sea urchins do naturally in the wild. But on the east coast of the US, there's a problem. The importance of sea urchins for coral survival has sadly been all too evident off the coast of Florida recently. In 2022, a disease wiped out huge numbers of urchins, and in their absence, algae smothered miles of coral on an already endangered reef. Scientists at Mote Marine Laboratory in Florida monitor the complex interreef. It could just be a solution to this urgent problem.
In the Maldives, Peter has used his coral IVF method to produce 500,000 coral larvae. The first stage is complete. Peter's work has already helped damaged reefs come back to life elsewhere, and the process has enormous global potential. But there's always been one factor standing in his way.
We know that when we release tens of millions of larvae from these pools, they disperse over the reef. Some of them get eaten by fish, some of them drift off the reef and are never seen again. The weak spot in the process is maximising the settlement of those larvae on the target reef areas that we're really interested in restoring.
Now, for the first time ever, Peter is collaborating with a scientist who thinks he may have a solution.
I've been fascinated by how corals find a reef and choose where they're going to make their home.
Professor Steve Simpson is a bioacoustics expert from Bristol University in the UK. In the last series, I was with Steve and his team when they made the breakthrough discovery that tiny larval coral with no ears and no brain are attracted to the sounds of a healthy reef.
Hang on, hold the phone. You're talking about teeny tiny floating larvae hearing a reef.
Absolutely.
In fact, the team discovered that it's the sounds of the fish that are the trigger for coral to sink to the bottom and set up home.
Look at that. So it looks like a meteorite.
Fish song is what encourages coral to build a reef. Steve's audacious plan is to use recordings of fish to lure the millions of larvae produced by Peter's fertility treatment to set up home and resuscitate this stricken reef.
What we need to do now is work out what sorts of reef song is most likely to start attracting larvae. And if we can do that, that could be incredibly important.
I mean, it feels almost like a bit of a live aid for the coral reef.
So you're Bob Geldof.
Yes.
What does that make you?
Meteor, I guess.
Obviously, yeah. The whole idea of a meeting of minds is incredibly exciting, but I mean, it sounds to me like all this stuff should take decades to figure out with experiments. We've got like a week.
We are going to have to work at an absolute rate of knots. It's going to be exhilarating, seat of our pants kind of science.
There's no time to lose. Our first challenge is how to record the sound of a healthy reef. So we're traveling to a reef called Hassan Ha that we know is full of life. Last year, we tested a rudimentary prototype of giant swimming ears for just this moment, and Steve thinks he's finally cracked the design.
You remember how sometimes it was just kind of hanging a bit loose in the water? We've now got it basically modelled on an underwater paper aeroplane, okay? So we've got this huge tail at the end. I'm hoping that underwater this is going to glide silently.
There's only one way to find out. Time for the maiden voyage. As we glide over the reef, 4 giant ears pick up every groan, shriek, and whistle. I'm retreating to a safe distance, so as not to disturb the crucial recordings. It's the most incredible thought that these fish around me right now have their own songs.
Wow, look at this. Clownfish have an amazing attitude. They will protect their anemone home with their life if needs be. And the sounds they make while they're doing it are just extraordinary. Did you hear that? Did you hear that as it came towards me? Unbelievable! It just did it. Never heard that before. But in all likelihood, that's probably just because I haven't been listening properly. That is the first time I've been given a telling off by a fish.
When we get back to the boat, we're both thrilled by what we've seen and heard.
It's super, super exciting. And seeing the amount of life down there and the amount of
I know,
diversity.
well, what a reef to take it to, eh?
Yeah.
The first time it ever gets to record a reef, and it's a reef like that. Beautiful.
Soon there are hundreds of hours of data to crunch. And now the pressure's on. By the time the larvae are mature enough to start looking for somewhere to settle down, Steve needs to have selected the best sounds to attract them. But he's discovering that the recordings vary enormously.
So here we've got midnight. You hear those? Yeah. And then that groan. So we've got a lot of fish activity here. These are all nocturnal predators. And they really use sound as a way of keeping the hunting pack together. They're like a bunch of wolves out on the reef, and they're howling to each other when they find potential food.
Throughout the day, different animals dominate the recordings.
One that I have to say I'm most excited about hearing is the dawn chorus.
Right, okay, so the dawn chorus, this is where you've got the emergence of all of the daytime fish. So you've got this bop, 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 bop. That's the kind of clownfish sounds that you tend to find. Very obvious, just these differences in the soundscapes.
Begging the question, do coral respond differently to different recordings? Steve had planned to run multiple experiments with large numbers of larvae. But because the damaged reef has produced far less spawn than expected, Steve has to limit his experiments. So he's forced to test a hunch, that busy is best. Steve thinks that recordings from the vibrant and varied healthy reef could be the most effective.
What we're hoping, I guess, is that those teeny tiny corals can tell the difference.
Yeah. We're going to put them into choice chambers, play these different sounds from one end or the other, and then look to see the directional movement of our coral larvae. I'm nervous, I've got to tell you. I'm very nervous.
And in the lab, things go to plan. Steve thinks he's cracked it. The larvae actively move towards the sound of the busiest locations. But now we have to test it again under natural conditions. And that's no mean feat.
This has never been done before. It's one of those moments where science is actually happening, and to get in there and watch is really quite an honour.
Okay, so this is the moment of truth. We have our cylinder suspended in the water, the speaker underneath it with the sounds coming up, and Peter has in his fingers just a few of those precious larvae to enter into the system. Okay, we've got one. Steve can see one of the larvae inside quite clearly. So now we're going to switch on the sounds of a healthy reef. Oh, I can feel it. And I can hear it. I really can't quite believe we're doing this. That one there's definitely dropped. Yeah. What about that one, Peter? You think that's dropping as well? It went from here to here. It went corkscrewing down. It can see a home. And they're all down to the bottom. 6 of them. So, best case scenario was for these larvae to start to make their way down towards the sounds of the healthy reef, which are coming from below. And it very much seems that that is what's happening. You happy? Good news! That is absolutely fantastic. And now that we know that in principle this can work, the next stage has to be release enormous amounts of these larvae and try and create something big and something special. How exciting is that? Nice work.
Natural reef restoration takes time, but some of the options being explored could help to speed things up.
Coral reefs are not exclusive to warm tropical waters like those found in the Maldives. Here in the UK, cold waters harbour incredible reefs too, and they're just as important and precious.
A coral reef is built from the hard calcium carbonate skeletons of stony corals. But a reef can also be made up of other marine species. Mussels and oysters, tightly packed together and attached to old shells, rocks and sandy material, also create solid reef structures, providing homes for a variety of species including soft corals. The UK has around 60 species of soft coral, and as their name suggests, they don't grow a hard exoskeleton. Most develop fleshy and flexible tissues like tentacles. But just like their stony coral cousins, their larvae need a stable surface to grow on. Around the world, reef structures have been destroyed by activities like dredging and trawler fishing. The resulting marine wastelands are no good for corals to settle on. On an industrial estate in Cornwall, a band of resourceful school friends decided to come up with a novel solution to bring back their reefs.
So this is how we started. Our first ever mixer was 120 quid off eBay.
This is literally how you did your first one?
We literally went onto eBay, bought a mixer for 120 quid, and now it's gone from making a couple to thousands a day.
Tom Burbeck and his team are producing the building blocks of artificial reefs. The cubes are made from 98% recycled materials. They're carbon neutral, and once lowered into place, they start working immediately, dispersing wave energy and providing solid structures for soft corals and other creatures to settle on. Carefully designed nooks and grooves on the cube surface will attract all sorts of marine life, each needing their own very specific home.
Tell me a little bit about how this all started for you.
So I started off spearfishing with my dad at sort of 10, 11. Always used to catch fish, so it was great. Then about 15, 16, you barely catch any fish. You know, nothing, literally barren. The actual rocky reef area that had been destroyed, that won't regrow. So we looked at trying to build something ourselves, and between us, we've sort of carved out the product that we think we can use.
The team are already manufacturing the blocks on a large scale, but because they can be produced using simple tools and materials, they're perfect for restoration projects everywhere.
Why have I got a tiny little, what's this about? And you got the big shovel. This is really
Do you wanna-
sexist.
do you wanna-
It's really sexist. I'm just saying. No, hang on to it because it's less work, but. Okay, we're pouring.
We're pouring, right, okay. What we're really lucky to have in the southwest is an abundance of waste material like this from the clay pits. Only about 11% of what they actually dig is clay. The rest is this.
Okay.
So all that is basically a waste byproduct, and we've got millions of tons of this sat around.
All around the UK, the demand for artificial reefs is growing in an effort to recover our coastal biodiversity and to protect our shores and infrastructure from erosion. It's early morning in Tor Bay, and we are taking reef cubes out into the bay to help restore the reef. Getting these 500-kilogram cubes to the bottom of the sea is a team effort.
I've never operated a crane. I just want to make that clear.
So you'll be looking at Tom in the wheelhouse. Tom will give you the thumbs up when he's happy for you to lower it away. When he's happy, make sure Sam's happy.
God,
when Sam's
so much to
happy,
think about.
push the lever.
What if I'm not happy? Okay, do it.
All right, let's go down from a nap. Down on the wall.
Down a bit.
Whoa,
Stop.
stop.
The cable lowers the block to about 15 meters.
Happy? All right, we'll put it away, and then we can do the last bit. Down.
It's on the bottom, but is it where we wanted it to be? We're launching a robotic camera sub to check on the final position of the cube.
There she is! How long before life starts to make this their new home?
So the fish have already arrived on site, so by the evening you'd expect crustaceans to move in.
In less than 24 hours, crustaceans will move in.
Yeah.
That's extraordinary. So this is the before.
This is the before. Let's go now look at the after. Ones that have been down a couple of years.
By providing these ready-made reef structures, the team are bringing the bay back to life.
Me and James did the surveys pre-installation, and it was just a barren seabed. It's sort of been decimated by industrial fishing, but now we've actually created a reef here And so far, we've identified over 160 species.
160 species?
Yeah, 160 species.
The reef cubes not only provide a home for wildlife like lobsters and velvet swimming crabs, they're also being used to protect offshore wind farms. They could replace the millions of tons of carbon-intensive granite and concrete currently used to protect the turbine structures and cables on the sea floor.
Look at you, you cannot take your eyes off the screen. As a biologist, is this just unbelievable to you?
It's amazing. I came up towards the end of last year and I was saying it's the best UK dive I've ever done. You know, I've probably got about just under 3,000 dives.
Thanks to the team's ingenuity, marine life here is bouncing back remarkably quickly, and the bay will be better protected from increasing weather extremes.
The need to protect our coasts from intensifying storm surges has become so urgent that in Florida, the Department of Defense is now funding a new generation of artificial reefs built to withstand even the mightiest of hurricanes.
Florida's 360-mile barrier reef system has lost a staggering 98% of its coral cover. And with it,
where the key to the restoration of coral reefs is going to be in the future is scaling up, making it cheap, making it fast, and making it easy.
Those themes of accessibility and scalability are what make the project in the Maldives so exciting. The big day dawns when we release the IVF larvae onto the damaged reef and use Steve's soundtrack to trick it into settling where it's needed most.
Inside this bag are those hundreds of thousands of larvae that are a result of everyone's hard work. And this next couple of hours is the crucial bit to find out if this is going to work.
It's worth remembering that in almost 8 years, this reef has struggled to recover naturally from the last bleaching event. This is a mammoth task and starts with some old-fashioned muscle.
What we're planning to do now is to gently pull up the larval pool, let all the seawater drain out of the fine mesh at the side and retain the larvae. Very slowly.
It's taken almost an hour to get to this stage. It's physically hard, and no one wants to be the one responsible for dropping the net and releasing all that precious cargo.
Perfect.
The smell is quite extraordinary, like Billingsgate Fish Market.
Okay, we'll have one bucket.
Go team!
The larvae are safely on board and very much alive.
This brown sediment at the bottom of these black tubs doesn't look like anything, but it's frighteningly important and the result of so much hard graft. It's not surprising everyone's celebrating like it's New Year's Eve.
In the wild, most, if not all, of these larvae would already be dead. But because of the intervention, almost all have survived. We've already massively cheated the odds. Rather than a smattering of larvae lost in a massive ocean, we now have over 500,000 ready to be deployed in specific sites. The corals are getting to a point where they need to settle. And if they settle in the tubs, they'll die.
We're in a race against time.
We are now, so we've got to get these larvae onto the reef.
A mistake at this stage could be fatal to the larvae and the project. We are so close.
This is the grand moment. The hours of sweat and graft is coming to fruition right now.
We'll be giving those coral larvae the acoustic experience of being on one of the healthiest reefs in the atoll. So as those larvae are seeking homes, they're moving around the reef, trying to work out where to settle, they're going to think that they're on an absolute belter of a reef.
The speakers are put in place, where they'll play continuously for 12 hours. There's one critical process left. We need to drop the larvae into precisely the right places. And for that, we need an AI remotely operated vehicle, or ROV.
So Serena, this remarkable bit of technology is very much your baby, right?
Absolutely. This is Bree, that's her name.
3 is loaded up with larvae. She's far more accurate and efficient at delivery than we humans can be. To places where coral larvae will survive best, and artificial intelligence allows her to learn as she goes.
What is it that the camera and the AI is going to actually be looking for?
So it's looking for nice, like rocky, solid substrates, and it turns off when it sees algae on the substrate, because if the coral lands there, they will just eventually die.
It's a very fine estate agent looking for the very best of neighbourhoods.
Exactly.
The ROV can cover huge areas of reef, targeting the perfect spots and never wasting larvae.
Well, this is such a complex operation, so many moving parts, and trying to communicate when half of you are underwater is just about impossible, but it looks like somehow it's all coming together.
Oh, that's brilliant. You see how all the fish... You see how all the fish just gathered round as soon as the sound system turned up? So they know it's a party.
At last, all of Peter's larvae is out in the ocean, hopefully spiralling downwards towards Steve's fish songs.
Well, guys, that was a chaotic few hours. Proper science in action, wasn't it?
I can't believe we've actually pulled off that plan for the day. I think we're really onto something.
Peter and Steve are jubilant. We know Peter's coral IVF works, and he and the team have successfully reared and released over 500,000 larvae here. We know Steve's acoustic method works. He's controlled larval settlement in lab experiments, and now we've seen it work in the ocean under real conditions. The results we're hoping for, new corals growing on the reef, won't be visible for many months. But as a result of this extraordinary experience, Peter and Steve are confident that their hybrid method could be the key to boost reef recovery, not just here, but on damaged reefs around the world. This new technique couldn't have come at a better time.
We're running out of corals on the planet. They're not replacing themselves naturally faster enough. They don't have time to recover before the next major bleaching event or the next major storm event.
I think in the short term, this is such a crucial part of the challenge that we find all of these interventions that allow us, as soon as we've got a problem, to get in and try to repair some of the damage.
Peter and Steve are taking their groundbreaking, scalable, and speedy restoration method, and they're running as fast and as far as they can with it. In 8 months, Australia's Great Barrier Reef will spawn. Peter and Steve and the Coral Rescue Team will be there, ready and waiting.
In the meantime, we've got to be tackling climate change. This is buying us time. It's kind of firefighting while we try and work out how we get to that much more harmonious relationship with the planet, which I hope will be in this century. I really do.
Without this collaborative rescue effort, the areas of this reef that have lain dead and crumbling for the last 8 years may have remained silent and still. Now there could be thousands of new corals growing on that reef. We know that corals attract fish, and in turn, fish will call more corals in. Now, nature takes over.
We've witnessed what becomes possible when we share expertise and work together for a common goal.
We'll be back in years to come to check on the progress of this reef.
And the ongoing work of these extraordinary scientists.
Tackling the big environmental issues of our time and meeting the clever folk with a plan. Listen to Rare Earth now on Sounds, and I think you may need a coat. From frozen seas to snowy mountains, discover the cold conquering power of mammals. Next.